Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Brett.
Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Riza or Risa?
Rissa.
Rissa, you have no face.
I know it.
Oh boy, this is an interactive deal. I need to see your face.
Oh, not yet. Not in that bad, no.
Don Miller, can you hear me?
I can now.
Don, your cam is not working.
Yeah, I haven't turned it on yet.
Oh, jeez. Nate, good morning. Oh, there you are. Woohoo! Don's alive.
Mm-hmm.
Nate Woolsey, where are you? Yo, Nate. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I got some more people that have texted me wanting the information on how to get in. So thank y'all for being a part of this webinar. I'm going to teach y'all how to build a huge team. This comes from experience. This isn't just a theory. I've done this myself. So I want to ask everybody, and we'll start with the first person that showed up his face. That will be Brett.
Brett. Good morning.
Brett, got a question for you.
Sure thing. Let me, you can hear me okay, right?
Oh, yeah. Why
Perfect.
in the world do you want to build a team?
Well, because I think the importance of that is to leverage yourself. You know, Michael Gerber wrote a book, I think it was his name, a lot of years back, that talked about why most small businesses fail. And we can't be the entrepreneur, the technician, and the salesperson all in one. So I think it's important to build a team so we can leverage ourselves, build better systems and programs so we can better service our clients and win friends.
And on the questionnaire, you put to build better systems, support, customer service for my clients, and a legacy. So you're looking at this to leave on to your kids if you need to.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. My next question was, building a team means managing people. Are you okay with this? You said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last question, having a team means you may not have to work weekends. Oh, you don't want to what? You don't want to work weekends? Are you?
I've never heard of not working a weekend.
I haven't worked weekends in a long time. I don't like working weekends. I like my life. Don, I'm going to pick on you next. You okay with that?
Yeah, sorry, I had my mic off. I'm pickable.
You're well, just don't pick your nose, okay? All right, let's see what you said to my questions. You said learning if this might be a good option for me. I never thought about having a team removes weekends. Building a team, are you okay with it? You said never done it. And you are definitely okay with not working weekends. That's awesome.
Absolutely. I think one of the struggles I have as a real estate agent, although I've been licensed for 15 years and a broker for 10, I've never really practiced much as an agent. And a lot of it had to do with not wanting to work on weekends. I love going home to my wife and my daughter, and I can give up a night or two here and there, and I'll go show a house on a weekend. But I think where you kind of got me with that is not working weekends. And I have a fair amount of agents that are a little surprised that I don't have a team because I've been around for so long. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute, maybe I need to rethink this a little bit. But then it goes back into the question of managing. And I've always been somebody that's been a self-starter, self-doer, self-successful, self-everything. And the idea of managing is I'm not sure if it's something that I'm overly ambitious to do.
So when you say you have a lot of agents under you, tell me what you're talking about.
Well, I had my own brokerage for a number of years, and I usually carried 1 to 4 agents. Currently, I'm with eXp Realty, and many of the agents, if you're familiar with eXp Realty, they fall under a tiered structure. So a lot of the agents I have now are underneath of me, but they don't necessarily, they're all still independent. But I do get agents that ask about, whether I have a team, why I don't have a team. And interestingly enough, I had asked a agent with the largest team here in Maryland to have lunch with me about 2 weeks ago to learn more about teams. So this thing with you came up, and I'm thinking, maybe I'll save myself buying somebody lunch.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Riza, am I saying that right?
I know it's Rissa, but that's okay.
Rissa,
Hey, I
okay.
figured out why I can't have video. I'm using the EXP provided computer, and we don't have a camera on this computer.
Okay, gotcha. All right, and your question says, first of all, you said being the managing broker of my real estate business is slipping away. I'm hoping to have a team take it over while still being a part of it. You said you're the managing broker, and the question I asked, are you okay with building a team? You said, I think so. And then this one, I kind of laughed when I saw this one. Are you okay with not working weekends? And you said, I wish.
Oh, right. Being the managing broker, they have me 24/7, it seems like, trying to train my agents, right, Brett?
No, sorry about that, Rissa.
But yeah, I had a really good real estate business going until I took on this position. I do have one buyer agent coming on, so she's going to be super busy. But you know, when you build up your real estate and you can't work it, I'm just really frustrated because my agents have to come first. And also, being the managing broker, I'm going to a lot of lunch and learns. So I'd like to be able to explain more that way to help teams grow.
So it sounds like what you've done is you've gone from a real estate career to a real estate job.
Yes.
That's exciting.
Well, could be. If I
Yeah.
had somebody to take over my business, you know.
Well, hopefully you'll learn something from this so that you can manage your time better, because it sounds like it's a time management problem.
Well, it's an agent thinking my time is theirs problem.
Okay. All right. We're good. We'll address that in a few minutes. The next person is Nate. Nate, I'm trying to find your information. Oh, there you are. Nate, can you hear me? Yo, Nate. Nate, I need to hear you. We're not going to do text.
Yeah.
Nate? Nate, can you hear me now? Okay. Nate says, be right back. Okay. We're going to move on. So, one of the first things that you have to do when you're going to build a team is you have to have the business set up so that you can start building a team. Do any of you use a transaction coordinator right now?
Not at the moment.
Brett?
No,
How about you?
Not yet. Not at the moment. I am the transaction coordinator at the moment.
So you're basically a realtor and an admin all at the same time.
Yep, that's correct.
That's exciting.
It's stressful at times.
So the only way to get to a situation where you can realistically have a transaction coordinator, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to get a bunch of listings. Because once you have listings, then the transaction coordinator comes into play. So let me tell you what this means. Many years ago, about probably 15 years ago, a broker with Remax told me, he said, if you want to make any significant amount of money, you got to do two things. Number one, you need to have at least 15 listings. Number two, you got to have a transaction coordinator to take care of all the paperwork so you don't have to chase paperwork. I thought that was a great idea. So I went out and got 15 listings. And then I forgot the part about the transaction coordinator, and I decided, oh, I need to get a transaction coordinator. So the very first thing you need to do is to get at least 15 listings. That's step one. So let's pick on everybody. Don, how many listings do you have right now?
I currently have 2 active. Everything I had sold, so I'm running really short.
Okay. Brett?
Well, I definitely got him beat. I just sold my last listing, so I'm starting with a big goose egg right now.
Okay. Rissa?
I have 6 listings that I get leads for and not being able to handle unless it's like 10 o'clock at night.
Okay, Nate, how about you? How many listings do you have?
Just sold my listing, looking for a new one in the same boat with a goose egg right at the moment.
Ooh, Lord. Okay. So basically, all of y'all are buyer's agents right now, except for Rissa.
Yes.
You're not
Exactly.
listing agents. So here's my question. What if you come down with pneumonia tomorrow and you're in bed? What are you going to do?
I'd have to reach out to one of my fellow EXP team members and see if we can work out some kind of a referral exchange.
So that means you got to give up money.
Right.
That's not a good thing. So you see where I'm going with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the listings, because what happens is when you put up a sign, let's call this a for sale sign,
Okay.
and as you're sleeping or doing stuff on the weekends, buyer's agents are out showing your listings. That's why we go for listings, so that we can free ourselves up so that we're not a Pop-Tart and have to pop up every time somebody wants to go look at a house. So you've got to increase your listing count. How do you do that? Well, there's many ways to do that. I teach a for sale by owner and expired class every Thursday. You can go after for sale by owners. You can go after expireds, your sphere. There's so many ways to get listings. That's a whole different class. But let's talk about the transaction coordinator. Here's what my transaction coordinator does. As soon as I execute a contract, I send the paperwork to her. I email it to her. She takes it from there and she contacts everybody involved in the transaction. Title company, buyer's agent. She arranges for the inspections. She does the inspection repair request. She does everything all the way to closing, and I'm copied on the emails that go back and forth so that I can see what's going on in the process. So number one, transaction coordinator. Where do you get one? Well, there's a lot of realtors out there that don't like to do real estate, but they love paperwork. You have a lot of people that have an accounting personality. They like to push paperwork, but don't make them call and try to sell real estate. They're not going to do it. There are people out there that will do that. There's companies out there that have licensed transaction coordinator. What we've done for our team is that we have a transaction coordinator for every MLS that we represent on our website. So I'm also with EXP. I've got a realtor in Washington, and we've got a transaction coordinator for her. I'm in Florida. We have a transaction coordinator for me and the other Florida agents. And I'm also licensed in Texas, and I have a transaction coordinator for myself in Texas. So everybody has a transaction coordinator. Any questions on the transaction coordinator before we move on to the details of that?
What's the thoughts of, you mentioned licensed assistant handling that role. And I remember years ago when I was with a Craig Proctor agent. In fact, he was a platinum agent at the time when Craig Proctor's name was everywhere. And then I think Jay Kinder and a few of these other guys took it to another level. But they brought on these people that wanted to become realtors, but used them as licensed assistants in the beginning until they got so far along where he could eventually branch them into maybe a buyer's agent and then kind of rinse and repeat that process.
Licensed assistant is actually would be the same thing as a transaction coordinator. But the transaction coordinator, all they do is do nothing but transactions. That's it.
Okay.
A licensed assistant is going to do other stuff for you, which means, from what I understand about licensed assistant, because I've never had a licensed assistant, that means you got to pay them a salary to do other stuff. I don't want to pay anybody a salary. So here's how the transaction coordinator gets paid. Each of our transaction coordinators get $325 per transaction. And what we do is we charge the transaction fee to the buyer or seller. So in a listing agreement, we're going to put in the listing that there's a $400 transaction fee. Now, why 400? Well, because that extra pays my EXP bill, $85 a month. So we charge a $400 fee. $325 of that goes to the transaction coordinator. And when it closes, the title company issues a check to the transaction coordinator for her $325. It's very simple. To the buyer's agent, you're going to add that fee on to the buyer rep agreement so that the buyer understands that they're going to be responsible for that at closing. So I'm sure the next thing you're thinking, well, how do you sell that to your buyer?
Mm-hmm.
Very simple. Brett, now that I represent you to help you buy a house, what's going to happen is we have a $325 transaction fee. And when we negotiate the price of the house, I'm going to throw that $325 in to the sales price so that the seller ends up paying it through our negotiations. Are you okay with that? So it's all about wording to your buyer and your seller.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I tell them, I said, the worst thing that you want me to do is for us to be showing houses, and right in the middle of showing houses, I've got to stop because our option period ends in 1 hour with another buyer. So I've got to go take care of this paperwork. That's why I hire somebody to do all of my paperwork for me full time, and so that nothing falls in the cracks.
How do you, in the offer to purchase, when you build in that transaction fee for the buyer, what are you calling it? I guess in that, like on the additional provision section.
Transaction fee.
Transaction fee. So on behalf of buyer, $325 transaction fee.
Right. And then that's how it's labeled on the CDA, is a transaction fee. Tanya Vargo, can you hear us? We're going to pick on you because you're late. We can't hear you.
We were in the car.
Way to go.
We got back to the office. Sorry.
So glad you could join us.
We just all uploaded our PayPal account so you can pay for dinner this week.
Sorry.
Brett's in charge of the money, so just send all the money. Okay. Don, do you have any questions for me so far?
No, it's all pretty understandable.
Okay. There are a lot of reasons that most realtors won't use a transaction coordinator is because they want to control all the paperwork themselves. Does anybody have that personality where you want to do everything yourself and you don't want to pass anything on to somebody else?
No, I love transaction coordinators.
Do you have one?
Yes.
And how much does your transaction coordinator charge you?
I think it's $500 for the listing to do that, and then for the contract to close, it's like $450.
Okay.
Which might be high.
I don't know.
I might need to renegotiate that.
That's actually higher than I've ever heard of before.
Okay, so we'll be fixing that.
To be my girl.
Okay.
She must be in California with those $1 million deals.
No, Texas.
What part of Texas are you in?
In Houston.
Okay. See, I'm licensed in the Dallas. Well, I'm licensed in Texas, but I'm so mostly in the Dallas area. So we're doing a $325 transaction fee.
I think mine's like $350 or something. Yeah.
Rissa, do you have questions for me?
Not at this time. I did have a transaction coordinator that was unlicensed, so that worked out great. And like you said, she only got paid when something closed. And they had it set up where she got the direct deposit. She had a W-2, EXP handled everything.
Now,
Well,
see, I would rather have a licensed transaction coordinator, because if they're licensed, then they can negotiate repairs on my behalf.
That's true.
If they're not licensed, then that means you got to step back in and you've got to negotiate the repairs when that comes through.
That's
So-
true. She used to be licensed, and I didn't have a ton of production. So basically, I had her just to do the marketing and making sure everything was in Sky Slope correctly. That's all she did.
I tell you what, transaction coordinator to me is probably the best thing that's ever been around, because they can take care of all of that paperwork for you while you're doing other stuff. And if if you think about most of the transactions that you have, most offers or counter offers happen on the weekends. And if you have a transaction coordinator that's doing that stuff on the weekends for you, and they get you involved only on an emergency, like the buyer's agents being a butthead or whatever, then you step in and take over. But as long as you have copies of every email that goes out, and the transaction coordinator is setting up the inspections, calling the title company, making sure the appraisal's done, getting the survey done, all of that stuff, then that frees you up from being a licensed admin, which you're not. You're a licensed realtor. Your job is to sell houses, not to do paperwork.
So in that 325 that you're paying your coordinator, does that include them negotiating repairs, or is there additional fees for that?
If we have, this is where you came in late. I charge $400 for the transaction fee. If my transaction coordinator has to negotiate repairs, then she gets $400. If she doesn't, then it's $325. So it's either $325 or $400, depending on what level of work she's got to do.
Okay, thank you.
When I first had her, she was charging $300, and she said, "Robert, I'm gonna need to charge you more if I got to do repairs." And so I was waiting for her to tell me $500, and I would have said, "Yes, absolutely, I'll pay $500." But she didn't. She said $400 if I got to do repairs. I said, "Yeah, that's a great deal. That's how much it's worth to me, and not to have to mess with that stuff."
Yeah.
Robert,
And-
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you find from your experience then that having a transaction coordinator that's licensed, are we better off having somebody internally with our company EXP, or going outside of that, or some sort of third-party service?
I think the optimal thing to do would have somebody that's with EXP that knows how to use SkySlope and all that other stuff. But I'll just say this: in Florida, the transaction coordinator is not. She has her own transaction coordinator service, so she handles multiple companies. The transaction coordinator that I use in Texas is with Keller Williams. So, you know what? As long as they know what systems you're using, I don't think it really matters.
Lost audio.
Did you lose me?
Yeah, you're just back now. You're back now. I don't know.
Okay.
Is anybody else losing audio?
I just heard a
Alright.
crackle, but it might have been on your end.
Okay.
I didn't pay my electricity bill, so that's probably what happened.
But no, I got most of it. Thank you.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about the details of what's involved with you doing a transaction. Brett, I'm going to pick on you
Sure.
since you've never used a transaction coordinator.
Mhm.
Tell me everything that you do from the time a contract is executed.
Mhm.
What's your job with that paperwork?
Yeah, from there, I've got to make sure that the lender's got copies. Obviously the details regarding the title company, making sure that the buyers or the sellers get all their copies of everything that's involved. Especially if it's like a paper copy, which a lot of them might want for records, of course, as opposed to a digital copy. And then obviously I'm involved with the banks, Yeah, coordinating those closing times, going on the home inspections.
Whoa,
Buyer.
back out. Stop.
Mhm.
You go to the home inspection
Yes.
for the full inspection,
Yes.
the entire 3 hours.
Pretty much. Yep.
Okay, y'all remind me to discuss inspections. Okay, keep going.
Okay. And yeah, then obviously, which of course I do look forward to the closing day because never had a closing that closed that I didn't like. So that's always a good thing. But yeah, pretty much everybody that's involved, I'm obviously taking care of making sure everything's uploaded. Into this case, SkySlope, which has made my job a lot easier. But every time there's an amendment involved, yeah, I've got to take care of all that too. Or notice.
So what happens if you have 5 closings going on in 1 month as far
Mhm.
as paperwork? You're
Uh,
busy.
Yeah, it might be an all-day thing in some cases.
How
Not
are
even
you
that
going to
much.
work with buyers or go on listing appointments if you're dealing with 5 closings in 1 month?
Right, it'd be pretty tough. And it has been at times when it does pile up.
And going to inspections.
Right.
All right, I'm going to give you my opinion about inspections.
Okay.
There is no way in hell I would ever go to an inspection. No way, dudes. Impossible. Because here's why. You're opening yourself up for a lawsuit. I had a friend who was with Remax. His name was Jack Hurst. He was a real good guy. I mean, honest. Everybody loved him. He went to the inspection with the buyer. The buyer asked him at the time that the inspector did the summary, they were going over everything that needs to be done. The buyer asked him, Jack, do you think I should do some of these things on this list? Jack said, if it were me, I wouldn't do it. Well, the buyer decided not to do it based on Jack's opinion. Jack's a licensed realtor, not a licensed inspector. The buyer sued Jack. Jack lost. He lost a lot of money. A lot of money. I mean, it was several $100,000 that he lost. Never, I would say, talk to your broker, your state broker, see what they say. My opinion, I would never go to an inspection. Let your buyer go for the last 30 minutes, go and hear the summary, but you physically should not be there for two reasons. Number one, liability. You're putting yourself in a liability situation. And number two, that's not your expertise. Your
Mhm.
job is not to manage an inspector. So on that transaction that you discussed, Brett, how
Yep.
much time total from the time that you executed a contract all the way to closing in hours, how many hours do you think you spent?
For each individual transaction, it could easily be 10 hours, depending on how much is involved in it, start to finish.
10 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your typical commission?
Listing side, 6%. Buyer agency side, it's usually about
No,
2.4.
okay, but transaction wise, I mean, like, 4,000 your
Oh,
side, 5,000 your side, how much?
3,400, I would say, is the
All right,
average.
3,400, and then how much do you think your total hours spent from start to finish is on everything?
I haven't broken it down, but
Why not?
that's a great question. Poor time blocking, I guess you could say. So that's why I haven't broken it down. But I would say if I were to guess, especially on a buyer side, for me, there's far more involved on the buyer side than there is on the seller side, depending on what's going on. But I'd probably say about 20 hours involved, start to finish.
And you wasted 10 of those hours on paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have handed it off to somebody else to let them do it. And you could have used that time to do something more productive. True.
True. Yep.
I just beat you up, didn't I, Brett?
Yeah, he sure did. But I love it. Yeah, some powerful stuff there. So
Reza, is it Reza? Before I abuse myself.
It's Rissa, yes.
Rissa. God, okay, hold on. I gotta write this down. Rissa.
Rissa with 2 S's will work.
Oh, okay. Well, see, that helps. You need to change your name.
That was my POF name.
Rissa, what's your opinion as a managing broker about going to inspections?
I hate going to inspections. I always tell the buyer, come the last half hour, let him do his job. Otherwise, it'll take twice as long. The inspector will send us an email with a whole report, and then we can review it. But yeah, I don't go to them.
Don, do you go to inspections? Yo, Don? The Don? Okay. Tanya, do you go to inspections? No?
No, I do not go to them.
You don't go to even the last 30 minutes of the inspection?
No, I'm usually not available. I'm
Awesome.
usually
Yeah,
Pardon me?
so you're booked. That's what I tell people. Can you meet me at the inspection? I'm sorry, I'm booked. I don't care if I'm watching TV, I'm booked. Don, do you go to inspections?
you mean Nate?
Yo, Don. Oh my God. Nate, can you hear me?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. No, I don't go to inspections.
Okay. Don, do you go?
I do not, but I generally don't work with buyers.
Smart
Although I
man.
do have a first-time buyer that I will have an inspection coming up.
Okay. So, this is really more about not just building a team, but about managing your time and don't waste your time on stuff that you don't need to be doing.
I have one question for you, Robert. In our area, we're seeing more people, I don't know, blaming on the Coldwell Banker agents or something like that in our area, but a lot of them are putting in the MLS that if an inspector is to be present on the property with the buyers, the agent with the buyer must also be present. We're seeing more and more of that in the MLS around here.
They're putting in MLS?
Yes. Yeah.
Do they put it in the contract?
No, not in the contract, just that they're disclosing in the private section of the MLS.
Okay. Well, that's a wonderful thing to request.
Mm-hmm.
My answer is going to be no. I'll never forget, I made an offer when I was brand new. I put in an offer to a very experienced RE/MAX agent who was like number 6 in the United States. That's how big he was. I put offer to be, I put something like need to have response to this offer by 12 o'clock or offer will be rescinded. I put that in there. And for Texas, you don't do that. So he calls me. He says, well, it's 11 o'clock. I saw your comment about offer to be responded. So here's my response. I don't have one. I'll give it to you later. And he hung up. So my comment to, if they put that in there, that they're supposed to be present, if it's not on the contract, I don't care what they request.
Right, because you're not working for the other client that they're representing. You're working for your buyer.
Exactly. Now, if you agree to it in a contract, then you better hold up to it.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not in the contract and they request it in MLS, I don't think that holds up at all. What state are you in?
Wisconsin.
Yeah, I would. Again, that's another broker question for your broker, but I wouldn't. I would say, okay, whatever.
All right.
Tanya, what do you think about that? We're both in Texas.
Yeah, I don't know. That just sounds weird. Like everybody's so against us doing anything. We were Keller Williams agents before we were EXP agents, and we had a pretty stringent compliance department, and our legal updates were insane. So nobody really crosses any lines that they don't have to. So we don't go to inspections or anything like that, just for liability.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's the goal of this webinar that I plan to cover. what I'm going to teach over the next couple of weeks is, number one, how to get a transaction coordinator, which we're not done with yet because you got to find the right person. The next step after you get the listings to get a transaction coordinator is next you have to get a buyer's agent to take care of your. Woo! Good morning.
Holy.
Sorry, y'all. Sorry.
You got to get a buyer's agent to handle your listings so that you can concentrate on listings, not work with buyers. Then after you get a buyer's agent to go after that takes all the sign calls from your listings, you've got a transaction coordinator that's taking care of the paperwork for the buyer's agent. The next step after that is now to hire another listing agent for you. And what I did is I separated the territory. In the Dallas area, there's 4 major counties. There's Tarrant County, Collin County, Dallas County, and Denton County. So what we did is I got my listing agent to call Dallas County and Collin County, and I took care of Tarrant County and Denton County. And so we separated our areas of where we were calling. Once he started getting listings, then we got him a buyer's agent to take care of his listings. And because we were so busy, we had to get another transaction coordinator to take care of his side. So now I'm running this ship. I've got I've got my listings, a buyer's agent, transaction coordinator. Then I've got a listing agent with a buyer's agent. And now things are really going crazy. We had to get 2 more buyer's agents to cover all the listings. The next step that we did is we got a licensed realtor who didn't want to sell at all. There was a very small percentage of people out there that likes to get on the phone. And so I hired a licensed telemarketer who would call people like insurance people do and ask them, are you thinking about selling your house in the next 2 to 3 months? And if they said yes, then they would follow up with a script of what to say. If a person said no, they hung up, moved on to somebody else, and they made phone calls. We usually did it around farming areas where a sign just went up. So a sign just goes up, and they would call that neighborhood and say, hey, did you see that your neighbor at 202 just put their house on the market? Yeah, I saw that. Would you like to know how much they're asking for it? Yeah, let me look. They're asking $222 for it. Do you want us to keep you up to date if there's a price change or if it goes under contract? And so that's what the telemarketer did, because what they did is they produced leads for me and my listing agent to go after listings. Any questions so far?
With the last tidbit, there's so much stuff going on out there, so many different systems, so many different tools, and obviously you can be overblown with all of them. But with a telemarketer idea, do you guys do more like a land voice or something like that?
There's a website that I use called salesdialers.com.
Sales what? Sales dialers.
Sales Dialers. SalesDialers. Salesdialers.com. The cost is about $110 a month. If you use promo PROMO 628, they'll knock $10 off your bill per month. That's what we used, and I still use that today.
And is that only for just listeds, or do they also do expireds and?
No, it's not to provide names.
Oh, okay.
I don't buy names. I don't buy leads.
Mm-hmm.
I can get all that information myself without having to pay for it. But all that is just a dialing system where I can call 4 lines at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a whole different. Look, go to YouTube and watch the videos on sales dialers to see how that whole system works. It's a great system. So let's talk about the personality that you're looking for of a transaction coordinator. Do you want somebody who's a type A personality for a transaction coordinator? Yes or no? Don says no. Brett, what do you think?
I say no on that one too.
Okay. Tanya?
Yeah. I don't know if I would classify it as type A or type B as more of like an analytical paper lover.
Paper lover.
Yeah, like somebody that just loves stuff.
That's exactly correct. If you get a type A personality as your transaction coordinator, you're going to butt heads big time. They're going to try to tell you what to do, and that is a bad person to get. You've got to get somebody who loves paperwork. They hate real estate, but they love paperwork. That's your personality that you're looking for.
I used to own a transaction coordinator company, and I would also look that they were problem solvers and a little bit of go-getters, so they could kind of, not be asking the agent for the answers, but kind of look for it themselves.
Exactly.
And like figure it out.
Right. Any questions on the whole transaction coordinator process, especially for the people who've never had one? Don, let's pick on you.
Yeah, I did have a question regarding that. Well, where do you find then with the different options that you have, like we have workplace, is that something you can reach out in workplace or state to find
I
the
think
state page to find somebody or advertise or word of mouth or?
Don, are you on Facebook, regular
I am.
Facebook? Okay.
Mhm.
If you make this post, and now get ready, make this post, looking for a transaction coordinator. Does anybody know one? Get ready. That post is going to blow up. I'm telling you, it will blow up. You'll have at least 10 responses by 5 o'clock tonight.
Mm-hmm.
That's one place. Then you can screen them and talk to them. I mean, that's how I found my transaction coordinators. I posted on Facebook looking for a transaction coordinator for Florida. Does anybody know one? Somebody from EXP said, hey, I got somebody you might want to call. She does all of my stuff. She knows SkySlope. So I called her. And now she's on our website as one of our transaction coordinators.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Or if you know a realtor who doesn't really want to do real estate, you could talk to them about it.
Now that I think about it, I have a transaction coordinator that was contemplating joining EXP, but she never made the leap. I guess I can reach out to her.
Of course, do some recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
As far as recruiting goes, you could really kind of turn that thing around. You could post businesses booming, need a transaction coordinator yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And now other realtors are going to see your post and they might ask you, hey, what are you doing where business is booming so much? That's a recruiting conversation all day long.
Absolutely.
Miguel, did I say that right? I'm bad at names. Miguel, can you hear me?
Are you referring to me? Sorry, I joined in for Miguel. I'm Flor Lopez.
Oh, what is your name?
Flor Lopez.
Okay.
But I registered as Miguel. I am actually his office manager. So I jumped in on the call for him.
Okay, hold on. Let me rename you. Tell me your name again. Spell
Flor, F as in Frank.
Yep.
Lopez.
Yep. Okay. All right. So you did a transaction coordinator service on your own, right?
Yes, I owned a company, and my company was closing about 1,200 transactions a year, and I had a team of 6 transaction coordinators.
And is that company?
And I actually have connections. I just sold it last month, and for any of you looking for a transaction coordinator, I'm connected to transaction coordinators nationwide, and I know a lot of them personally, and I know who will give you great service or not.
Oh my. Okay, because we're expanding our team. So I'm going to need your telephone number.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If you guys want to write it down.
Yeah, what's your phone number?
If you guys want to write it down. 682 553.
Whoa. Okay, can you start all over?
8. Yes. 682 653-6326.
And
Or
how
you
much,
can email me at arrow. You can email me at arrowrealestatepro@gmail.com. And whatever state you're in, I can refer a TC for you.
awesome. How much are the transaction coordinators getting for each transaction?
It really depends on your area, and state and price point and whatnot. For example, my area, I would charge $375 per transaction. And normally your transaction coordinator would get paid at closing. And my company, for example, didn't charge any cancellation fees. And a lot of the TC companies don't charge cancellation fees. They just get paid at closing if you're hiring somebody per file. If that's not somebody that's going to be, under salary in your team. There are other TCs that charge $250, $275. It's really going to depend on your area.
Are these transaction coordinators licensed, real estate licensed?
Some of them are and some are not.
Okay. So do they do the repairs? Will they work the repair request?
Some will negotiate and some will not. But some will help with, typing the amendment for you as long as you send them an email with what you need on the amendment.
Okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. Well, there you go. Y'all need a transaction coordinator. Done. Wasn't this easy? Okay, so we're going to kind of wrap this up. Does anybody have any questions on step 1 of building a team? Don, I'm going to go back and pick on you for just a minute.
Okay.
You've been a realtor for how long?
15 years.
And you've
Been
never
licensed 15 years.
and you've never had a transaction coordinator.
No, I have traditionally been on the investing side of the business, handling a lot of my own transactions and always carried agents that were more investment for their own accounts. It hasn't been until the last 2 years that I've actually started pretending like I'm a real estate agent. 18 months maybe.
Okay. So what is your plans on building a team?
Well, I because I do get asked and I have agents that are around me that tend to be more interested in being buyer's agents, which I do not want to be. So I wasn't sure where the line was of being able to say, okay, well, I'm actually a formal team with a buyer's agent, potential listed agent, a transaction coordinator, or just doing everything on a referral type. All right, listen, I get these leads on buyers, you go call them and give me 25%. And I didn't know whether here in Maryland, whether there's any limitations with that or the perceptions of that, so I figured I'd better start learning a little bit.
Okay, so let's talk about referral fee. We're going to get into this topic next week on the buyer's agent, because I'm going to talk about 2 different ways to do a buyer's agent. But I just want to tell y'all one thing. You don't have to have a buyer's agent in the city that you live in. You can have a buyer's agent in a different city. So, for example, I live in Florida, Panama City Beach, Florida. I'm licensed in Texas. So I go after listings in Texas, and I have a buyer's agent in Austin, if that's confusing for you. So here's how my system works. If I get a listing in Austin, Texas, I call my buyer's agent and say, hey, I just got a listing. I need you to go put up your sign on this listing and a lockbox. Any calls that go to that for that listing, she gets all the calls and we do a split. Now, a traditional buyer's agent would do maybe a 60-40 split, a 70-30 split, however you want to do it. Then there's option 3. If you're with EXP, you can just bring on a buyer's agent, and then you're going to get the percentage by having them in your downline. So there's actually 3 ways to structure a buyer's agent if you're with EXP. But I think if you don't have a buyer's agent, then you're going to be the buyer's agent. And I don't want to be a buyer's agent. I hate working with buyers. Absolutely hate it. So I would rather have a personality type that likes to work with buyers and let them do all of that stuff, and then just let me do my listings and leave me alone. Does that make sense?
But with regard to that, though, if you're the listing agent and the buyer's agent's putting their sign on a property, does that create confusion, or is that okay? I guess it's okay because you're doing it, but does that make sense?
Well, here's what I tell the seller. I've got a person who's a part of my team. The sign is going to have her name on it, and then I'll be working the transaction part. I'll be working the deal with the other realtor. So all the offers, I'll be working that offer with you, the seller, but the buyer's agent is going to get all the calls to bring buyers on her side too. As long as they understand that that's a part of my team, they're okay with it. They really don't care.
Is down in Texas, does the state regulate teams like they do brokers? Here in Maryland, they do. The team is just a subsection of a broker, and you have to have team leaders, and they're regulated very much like a broker.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't use the word team here in Maryland without actually being a team.
Well, they're doing some changes on that. I just found out that when I renew my license that I got to take a broker responsibility course, which I'm not a broker. Don't want to be a broker in Texas, but I got to take that stupid class as if I was a broker. So things are changing in Florida where I live. It's completely different. I mean, I'm surprised at how much the states are different with the rules of what you can do and what you can't do.
So I was going to say, going back to that, my original, when you asked me the last question about where I was at with it, is, do I want to be a team or not because of the regulations getting set up, and I would have to act as I am an associate broker with EXP, so I would have to act as a broker or a team leader with the responsibilities that are associated with doing that.
Be a team leader.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, so here, even in my office, technically I should be registering my office as an office for EXP because I operate out of my office, even though I use it for my other business, my real estate business outside of being an agent. But if I bring a client in here, it's supposed to be registered.
Right.
I haven't gotten that far yet. Broker hasn't jumped on me yet.
I got you. Okay, so next class, we're going to talk about when to bring a buyer's agent on and how to structure that, and the 3 ways to pay a buyer's agent so that it's beneficial, not just for them, but for you. That's really the most important part, is making it beneficial for you, because you're the team leader. You're the one providing the leads. You're the one providing the whole structure of the team. So it's got to work out for you, period. So I'm going to record. All these sessions are going to be recorded. I'm going to email all of you each session. They're going to be on YouTube. So if you want to refer back to them, if you lose the link, just go to YouTube and you'll be able to watch this video. Does anybody have any questions before we end today?
Yes. Can we add Karen, my friend Karen, to the group? Is that allowed?
Yeah. Just tell her to register. This is free. It's a free deal.
Yeah.
Well, that answered my next question, but what's in it for you?
Well, what's in it for me? I do sales training and coaching, and I'm hoping that one day you'll look me up and say, hey, Robert, I need help on coaching and all this other stuff that I do.
Good enough.
Yes, I have ulterior motives.
Sure.
But I'm not going to try to push you to call me to do private coaching. If you want to use me, I hope that I've got enough knowledge that I can help you with something, and then I'll be there if you need me.
This is amazing, Robert. I appreciate you holding this class.
Awesome.
This is great.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is truly a blessing. Thank you,
Don,
Rob.
if you do want to send me a check, just send it to Robert J. Russell. Just make it a blank check, and I'll fill out what I think I'm worth.
Nice.
I may yet do that.
Okay, I like it. All right.
Well, wait a minute. I'll upload my PayPal account, and I'll make sure it gets to Robert.
All right. Y'all have a great week, and we will see you next, what day are we on? Wednesday.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.